Welcome, everybody, to the Minions of the Zoo. It's the Tuesday edition. I'm your keeper this evening, Skep Tock, and with me I have Minions Prospero.
Hello.
And the Harry Channel.
Good evening.
Welcome, gentles all. Harry, how was your day, bud? Anything interesting?
I made a cheesecake.
How did
That's
it go?
interesting.
That's interesting to me.
I won't know until tomorrow because it needs to chill in the fridge for 8 hours. And I have to tell you that the temptation to go in there and just go screw it and cut myself a slice is pretty high.
Oh boy.
You can't eat crap like that all the time, but every now and then you have to make an exception.
It seems like there would be an appliance that would instantly make something cold like that enough. I mean, you can find these, what is that boiling process, sous videing or something like that?
Sous vide.
It's not what about the opposite of something that would take a prepared cheesecake and
like a
make
freezer?
it instantly, but like with liquid nitrogen going through it,
Yes.
so it super cooled it.
Yeah.
Not like LOX temperature, just liquid nitrogen, or maybe even.
I'm going to punish you with a serious answer. Okay,
please.
Okay, so when you want to make a cheesecake like this that's kind of dense, if you want it to be extra creamy, you have to basically cook it in a water bath.
Mm-hmm.
So the moisture from the water bath keeps it from getting, too hard on top, that sort of thing. But in addition to that, it gives you a nice even temperature. So better moisture, even temperature. But before you do all that, it's absolutely critical that you let your eggs and your cream cheese come to room temperature before you use them. And then you mix them on very low speed, only as much as you need to make it smooth, because you don't want to import a bunch of extra air. So my cheesecake, this New York cheesecake, is like the difference between gelato and shitty ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
It should be very, very dense, and it should be very creamy, without a lot of extra air and stuff. And you don't want to change the rate at which you cool things, because if you were to freeze it, for instance, nucleation would start to take place, and it's just totally the wrong thing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Everything has to happen at just the right pace. So everything kind of warms up, and then gradual heat in the oven, and then gradual cooling, and then the fridge.
I had an invention in mind. You and I were going to take this to the Shark Tank.
Was it going to use lasers? Because we could use lasers to individually freeze each of the atoms in place.
To cool.
You can use lasers to cool things.
Yeah.
You can, but you'd have to do it one atom at a time.
Sharks with the frickin' lasers.
Yeah, we could use lasers. Oh, look at that! Look at that atom's moving too fast. Just stop right there.
That atom.
Yeah, so that's how my day's going.
And then do you open a store called Quantum Cheesecakes?
Naturally.
Good boy.
Yummy action at a distance.
Yeah. I can't wait for them to come up with a whole new theory before we're all dead. What do they call it? Quantum Plus?
Yeah.
Or Quantum Plus Plus. It's going to be the new super quantum
meta quantum
silly string theory. It's going to be great.
Silly string theory. I like that idea.
Yeah. So that's my day.
And on the 8th day, God played with silly string and had an idea.
How about you, Prospero? What was your day like today?
I did laundry, and then I got a package from Amazon, so I've got a new book to read, and I'm really excited, and I'm sure that this is going to make me a lot of new friends. It's a book by Larry Correia, who is a science fiction writer and pundit extraordinaire.
What's he writing about here?
The foreword is by Nick Searcy, another favorite of everyone.
Yeah.
And
I've read some of his stuff.
Glenn Reynolds approves of this book. So you know that's going to make me a lot of friends. The creator of Instapundit.
Oh, really? Okay.
So not C.S. Lewis?
Correct. The distinguished professor of law at University of Tennessee, Glenn Reynolds. And Ted Nugent endorses it. The name of the book is In Defense of the Second Amendment. So I'm looking forward to reading it, because instead of going down the legal jargon, Larry is arguing that everyone has the right to their life. They have the right to live. And therefore, they have the right to self-defense. Isn't that peculiar? Sounds like an argument that I
to
don't
what
know
extent does
George
the public,
Mason may have made, or
to what extent does the public safety, the interest in public safety, constrain the rights of a gun owner?
But Skep, what about the social contract?
Yes, but the interests of the public in safety, number one, safety is an illusion. You're not guaranteed safety in life. So it is up to you to defend yourself if your safety is... it's why we're taught defensive driving, or were taught defensive driving, before people began to be taught merely to aim vehicles.
So can a person have a mortar to defend themselves?
I understand where you're going with this.
Exactly.
I don't.
How about a shoulder-fired missile?
Technically speaking, I don't oppose any of these things. I've always wanted a warthog.
I really want to make a rail gun.
Well,
I mean, I'm serious. I actually really would like to make a rail gun.
I would help you.
I want a flying Gatling gun, and that's what a warthog is.
Yeah.
And I just, it's a flying tank with a Gatling gun on it. It's like the most awesome airplane ever.
Titanium bucket seats.
You know, there should be one in every garage.
When the birds hit it, it's usually the birds hitting it from behind.
Yeah, yes, because it's slow as shit. It is. I mean, it's amazingly slow. I mean, I've seen some of the runs.
250 mile an hour airplane here.
Some of the runs out at Nellis, you know, the kind of proving grounds.
But that's what you want. That's what you want in an attack aircraft. Because what is his mission? His mission is twofold. Actually, people forget it's not just a tank buster, which is that just happens to be excellent at that. It's also a close ground support weapons platform too, and it's absolutely devastating.
It's a bogey blaster.
I swear to God, in a standard like battle formation, that thing will clear a path the width of 100 yards wide. It will clear out with that Gatling gunfire. It just
I've seen some of the night vision.
Devastating.
I've seen some of the night vision stuff.
Yeah.
That came out of the sandbox.
Yeah.
And it was pretty impressive how many suddenly cooling objects there were on the ground.
It's like having half of a C-130 that can go twice as fast as a C-130.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a large airplane propeller driven. I'm trying to remember which one it is. I mean, it's a
C-130. It's one C-130. That's what I'm talking about. The gunship.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. That thing's pretty amazing. It's pretty heavily armed for something that moves at very slow speed.
Yeah.
But in terms of the countermeasures and stuff, it's got some pretty good electronic countermeasures, and of course, flares and all the other suppressive type stuff to keep it from getting shot down. I wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of one of those.
No, it also has a way of absolutely annihilating anything long before they can get anything on them.
Mm-hmm.
They come up quiet and they just it's instant destruction. The people they attack with these things are reacting as they die.
Yes,
they're just beginning to react as they die. It's sudden and it's awesome, and then they're gone.
That's what I was referring to when I said rapidly cooling objects.
Yeah, exactly. Taking the room temperature challenge.
I'd probably go below room temperature, depending on how much mist there is. But
yes.
But I have a serious question.
Some were collected with a sponge.
And this is a question I don't actually know the answer to. So if you accept that people can have like a dry county or a city where alcohol is banned, because there's certainly nothing nationally that should stop anybody from consuming alcohol.
Correct.
Pursuit of happiness, not illegal, but individuals in communities can decide, well, we collectively don't want to have this here. How do you feel about municipalities restricting gun rights?
They're welcome to reap what they sow.
So if Chicago decided to disarm all the lawful citizens You know,
No, that's unconstitutional.
that's that graph, you know,
That's
the
an
one
unconstitutional law.
You cannot disarm people who've done something wrong. You could restrict the sales of weapons within the city. You can restrict the sales of weapons within the state.
Yeah, because you look at those English.
It still borders on the unconstitutional to me because it's a presumption of guilt that's applied to gun owners, which is, I think, should have always been the Supreme Court's test on these kinds of municipal or state laws.
I think that would be a test in court. I think they would have to bring suit on that.
Yeah, because I mean, I just think that
I don't think there's much out there.
What's really going on is presumption of guilt. That the owner of the weapon is an irresponsible to-be murderer. And the number of weapons and the number of individuals who own weapons in this country prove that false. Statistically, no matter how many people puke out false statistics about mass shootings, they never count gang violence. They never count the drug-related, cartel-related, or cartel-linked at least, gang violence that takes place. They just don't. You know, and what gets classified as a mass shooting now can be a domestic dispute, which I'm afraid to tell you have occurred since time immemorial. You know, I mean, Cain and Abel, okay? That's a domestic dispute.
I agree. I just, the thing about democracy, because everybody likes to rag on democracy. I mean, I like democracy. It's the best of all the bad systems. But
I like constitutional republics too.
But in terms of things that a democracy can do to you at the local level, those asshole councils over in the UK, I worry that some American cities are going to end up going that route because those assholes just need to lighten the hell up.
Yeah,
Let Jeremy Clarkson open his damn restaurant. And, you know, that's just a minor thing. Just imagine what they're going to do about gun ownership.
Yeah, it's the punitive. It's punish everyone in the class for the misbehavior of one individual. And it's that collective guilt kind of goes hand in hand with some of the perverse theology of collective salvation.
Yeah. And, well, you know what the counter argument is for all this stuff, and I'm not saying it's right, but I feel like to defeat it, we have to kind of take the counter argument head on.
Yeah, steel man it first.
Which is the that there are is it within the government's purview to stop somebody through force from committing an act from which nobody can be made whole? So, for instance, the one I always go to is it okay to inspect gas and tanks because you can't have one idiot with a shitty gas station screwing up the water supply for 100,000 people? There's no remedy for that after it's already happened, you know, or a nuclear reactor. People are going to make the argument that with guns and things like that, that after the crime has been committed, there is no way for restitution or anything else to take place. So the government has an obligation. This is not my argument. But this is the argument that the government has an obligation to basically go after pre-crime.
Well, then.
Well, doesn't that open some nice doors? Okay.
Well, then.
Yeah, I want them to have that authority. That sounds
Fourth
great.
Amendment. We don't need no stinking Fourth Amendment.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, then, the number of comparisons that can be made to how that won't work, are legion. You don't have a national driver's license. We have state driver's licenses. And the government has done a piss poor job, given the statistics regarding how many people are killed in automobile accidents, in forcing people to wear seatbelts in order to avoid that an inescapable problem of once violence of some kind has occurred to them, they cannot be made whole. We also should ban thunderstorms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it becomes ridiculous. That's why I said that safety is an illusion. This notion that our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness means that we encounter no unhappiness or no folly or sometimes no misfortune, as in fatal misfortune, is insane, because you'd have to outlaw gravity. Now, the government could lock us all up inside cotton batting, I guess. They couldn't afford it, nor could they implement it. That's what the British are doing, council by council. They're trying to wrap everyone in cotton batting, and it's not happening. It can't happen. This is unicorn farming. I mean, at its heart, it's unicorn farming, wishing and hoping, and it's delusional. It's not just merely that safety is an illusion. Believing that you're guaranteed a safe life is delusional.
I actually consider anything that abridges a gun owner's right, for a gun owner to own what is, a common sense person considers to be a gun, not a machine gun, not an A-10, not a rocket launcher, a gun.
Damn.
Might be a shotgun, might be a rifle, might be a handgun. It's a gun. As far as that's concerned, I think that right has such power coming where it does in the Constitution. What was on their minds, framers' original intent? If that has any power at all, if that has any meaning at all, then I think that has to rule the day in all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Any abridgment of that is unconstitutional by definition.
It comes within the Bill of Rights immediately after our right to assemble, freely practice our religion, and speak. It comes immediately thereafter, before the rule against the government billeting soldiers in your home, which obviously was still a thorn in their side, because that's one of those amendments that you hit the third.
That was the most debated amendment, supposedly.
Yeah, but you hit the third, right? Because it was utmost in their minds at the time, because they had the British yoke on their neck and boot at their throat for so long. And then you get the right to privacy, which isn't the right to privacy.
It's not. But that's that penumbra.
That's the penumbra. The used at the
penumbrated.
The fourth and the 14th, and they're long, very strangely shaped shadows.
Yeah.
God.
Gerrymandered shadows.
Damn, Earl Warren.
Yeah.
Wow.
Impeach him.
Dig him up and impeach him. Then kill him again.
My uncle had an impeach Earl Warren sticker on his car.
God damn. I mean, I've never... I know people are upset, and I can understand why, and you can be all twisted up about Dobbs, but for God's sake, most of the people just have never read Roe v. Wade to look at this tortured reasoning that goes on.
Yeah,
they don't care about the reasoning; they only care about the effect.
Yeah, they care about their feelings. That's the thing.
Well, the thing is, we've built a political class that cares about nothing but being elected next time. What do we do about that?
TARs,
what can we do about that?
Rails, torches.
As much as we'd like to have a French Revolution,
no.
Do we need to have a French Revolution where instead of guillotining, what we do, we toss them from office. And that's their punishment is that
They're
they
barred
can't
from
anymore.
holding elective office anymore.
I mean, for people like Schiff, that'd be worse than death.
Yeah. Or Swalwell.
Swalwell would not survive on his own. Can you imagine? Predator or prey? You be the judge.
The cheetahs sharpen their claws. Schiff, oh my God. I mean, what a crybaby little fuck out on Twitter. I didn't keep them to me. Oh my God. Tell me you're from California without telling me you're from California.
No kidding.
Well, it's a Californian kicking him off the committee too, so.
Well, I know.
Wait till they get bitchy about the Senate seat out
and
there.
They all suck.
Yeah.
They all suck.
You know, Schiff has said he wants to run.
They ain't gonna they're not gonna let that little turd run. No, sirree.
Well, has McCarthy done anything since he became speaker that you disapprove of?
I haven't followed his day-to-day decisions because
I know that.
I disapprove of him so fundamentally that, you know, I consider the Republicans hopeless, and I probably should follow a little bit. Why has he done anything interesting? I haven't seen anything in the press in the press outlets that I look at, which are not the MSM.
Other than basically telling Hakeem Jeffries to shove it up his ass.
Oh, and kicking Schiff and Swalwell off of the Intelligence Committee.
That was a tip. That was a tip.
That was a good. That's
a good move, but it's much much plus. It's all sauce and not much substance.
Yeah, it was.
I'm just willing to give the guy a chance.
It was.
I don't have to like him. He doesn't have to be my favorite politician, but
he seems to be avoiding mistakes thus far.
Thus far, I mean, he will screw up eventually, but for the time being, he seems adequate. Certain adequacy to his speakership.
Adequacy is a good way to describe him.
Yeah, I mean,
that guy is
painfully
bland
adequate
in a suit.
How
can you stuff that much pablum?
He has the mandate of the Republican in Congress.
Suit.
He has the mandate of the Republicans in Congress.
God, he barely.
The guy elected after how many ballots? 8 ballots?
15. 15 or 16. I can't remember.
I don't think that number really means anything other than that things have gotten so divisive that even within the Republicans, we've got infighting.
The Republicans do not have their shit together at all.
Well, the problem is the Freedom Caucus is so tremendously outweighed. And I swear to God, Gozar looked like somebody killed his dog.
Well, the demands they made, which McCarthy agreed to because he wants it that badly. I thought were actually
vote for him.
Wait, I thought they were actually very well thought out.
They were.
I'm glad they dug in their heels and they forced him to acquiesce because basically, if he screws up, it's really easy for them to kick him out. So he has every incentive not to suck.
And I think speakers should be answerable to their parties like that. That bullshit rule about you got to got this many people to say that I suck before you can call no confidence vote, basically, is what we're talking about, which is you're out. We're going to elect another speaker. It doesn't matter. Speaker of the House, in some regards, is ceremonial. In others, it's just bureaucratic. But they have staff. They have staff that handles most of that bureaucratic bullshit.
Yep.
Now, the busier you can keep McCarthy worrying about his image and whether all the Republicans love him so that he's not floating any brilliant ideas. Yes, the Speaker of the House kind of sets the agenda for the House. But if he's busy with a lot of other things that he's worried about, maybe he won't try to legislate a bunch of stupid shit.
Yeah, I think he's on a pretty short leash. I don't need to like the guy. I only care about him doing a good job. That's all I care about.
Yeah. I mean, I have watched people that I thought had potential crash, burn, and get flamed out of that building so many times.
Prospero, are you looking at what the Republicans are putting on the agenda for the next Congress?
Are
you looking at any of the committee reports?
Attention to a couple of the early little things that
you might look at stuff. I literally don't know what's pending, and that's a little bit of a laborious process to find. You know, you can always find a list of the bills. That's easy.
Yeah.
Finding out which bills have a prayer of getting out of committee is a different story completely.
Well, none of them will pass the Senate.
And none of them are going to pass in the Senate, you know, unless they're, except for compromise, you know, national monument bills and stuff. So I just wondered if it was worth looking into it and seeing if McCarthy is managing what's coming out of committee at least decently, so that if and when the Senate turns red, they'll have a well-oiled machine to put the legislation they want to put through, and there better be some goddamn deficit reduction.
Yeah, are you shitting me?
Yeah, Republicans, right?
They're just hoping
party of George Bush.
Yeah, they're just hoping to get control again so they can spend money on their pork. That's, I mean, except for the Freedom Caucus and Rand Paul and occasionally Mike Lee. I shouldn't say occasionally Mike Lee. Mike Lee has actually some scruples. It is a rare thing to encounter anyone who seems to be actually interested in the well-being of the nation.
Yeah.
They generally seem to be interested in their own personal well-being, where their influence position is within the party, and the status quo. Lindsey Graham, that mewling, puking piece of shit.
Yeah, lying piece of shit.
Oh my God. And he's out there saying he doesn't think there's really any sinister intent about these documents that Biden has. And Pence contacted the FBI. Yeah. I think with all this stuff going on, the thought crossed Mike's mind, I better start going through some papers, you know, and contacted the FBI. Shit, I found some stuff.
Pence had a sudden realization that he meant nothing to Trump.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that was a bit of a change for him. I think that he thought that Trump would be there for him. And then he realized Trump is not there for anybody but Trump.
Oh, well, what in the world do you think? You know, I mean,
I think promises were made. I think Trump lied to him. I think that's part of Trump's MO.
Well, lied or manipulated. It's a business deal.
And Trump's behavior after the election, in retrospect, seems insane to me.
Well, it's
I mean, this Captain Quig all over the place.
Yes, but he's not guilty of any crime. Yeah. He's just guilty of being.
Well, I mean, in mutiny on the in the Kane mutiny, the stewards actually did steal the strawberries.
Yes. But Trump isn't the steward in that case. He's Quig.
Yeah. Yeah, he's exactly.
Yeah, it's
But you remember Bogart just, you know.
Oh God. The strawberries. Well, yeah, they were fucking with him because they knew he was a dick. They snapped him, but I mean, that's a little bit like Pulver throwing the potted plant overboard
on Mr. Roberts, yeah.
Yeah, and Mr. Roberts, or the great lie, the great historical lie of Mutiny on the Bounty.
Yeah. The many historical lies of Mutiny on the Bounty.
Yeah, that's
many, the mostly fictitious stories of them.
Well, it paints Fletcher Christian in, you know, because it's a Fletcher Christian love piece.
Right.
You know,
Disney ennobled him.
Well, yeah, and Fletcher Christian's a shitbag. Bly was nowhere near as bad a man as
Fletcher Christian was a horn dog, is what he was.
Yeah, he was, and you know, but the
yeah, I know she's my niece. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great story. The Mutiny on the Bounty for the interested students out there listening to the broadcast this evening. Mutiny on the Bounty is a real thing that happened, and it's never been truly captured on film. What really happened?
Right, because the captain.
Because it would be X-rated.
Well, what happened, or the captain being mischaracterized, so badly mischaracterized. But that happens as we
I remember
know.
the trial of the patriarch, for pedophilia, all that stuff. Them flying the court out there to try them. It's quite a thing. Very British.
Flying the court out there.
Oh my God, that's a hell of a story. That's Pitcairn in modern times. That happened while you and I've been alive. Even Harry was a kid, but he was alive. Yeah.
Pitcairn I was just playing with my plastic dinosaurs.
That was Pitcairn Island.
That never happened. My dinosaur phase was 3 weeks long, and then I got bored.
Yeah. Yeah.
He memorized all their names.
Yeah, I was like, okay, Diplodocus, Stegosaurus, right? Okay, none of these exist.
Triceratops. It's cool.
Boring.
They're all dead.
Yeah. Dead lizards.
Unless
I go out and play now.
Unless I can have a pet brontosaurus, I'm not interested.
What was your favorite hobby when you were 10 years old, Harry?
10 years old?
Yeah, when you were 10
what
years
grade
old,
would that put me in?
Sixth. Oh, well, you would have been a junior in college.
Yeah, I was going to say.
No, they didn't let me skip any grades.
3 years off of the differential calculus.
So what grade are you in when you're 10?
Grade.
Fourth?
Sixth.
No.
Sixth?
No.
Yeah. Well, I was 10 in the 6th grade.
Well, you're 5 in kindergarten, so
yeah,
I would think you'd be like 4th or 5th grade.
I was 4 in kindergarten, so
5th grade. I was 10.
Oh, I did really want to make a laser. So I had all these Scientific American books on how to make your own laser, and so I was simultaneously trying to grow a crystal that had enough chromium in it that I thought maybe I could get it to laze.
God.
When you were 10?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck's sake! I was still sticking peas at my.
Did you have laser goggles or anything? Any?
Oh God, no! I couldn't make a laser. But this is right before the solid state ones came out, and then everything got much easier.
Yeah, no.
But
kidding.
back in the old day, when lasers cost thousands and thousands of dollars.
Oh, you would have loved my Science Explorer when I was a senior in high school. We got to go over to one of the Beltway bandits that was doing laser research, and they let us play with lasers every Saturday night for an entire year. We built some amazing things, and we would calibrate these things and get them to laze exactly right. These neon lasers and argon lasers, the green argon lasers. Those are beautiful. Put them through a smoke box. We had lots of fun with lasers. You would have loved that, Harry.
Well, the one laser I really wanted to make was a nitrogen pulse laser. And I had this idea in my head that I could measure the distance to clouds somehow by making like a LiDAR thing.
Right. Yeah.
And then ultimately just sort of be able to map out all the clouds using my laser rangefinder.
Oh, awesome.
It was just a thought.
Yeah. Very good. So that's what you were doing when you were 10. Yeah, I was in Boy Scouts. I was hiking up the side of Pikes Peak.
Well, chemistry was fun. I mean, I told you I did get I went to the pharmacy and convinced them to sell me a liter of, full strength sulfuric acid. That was fun.
Of 95% sulfuric acid. Really?
But I didn't, I had a motivation. I was also thinking maybe about getting some other things to go along with that, but we won't list the ingredients that I was thinking of.
No, we won't.
No.
Because we won't. Because
nitrocellulose is a thing.
Okay, trinitrated toluene and trinitrated halogens and all those other ways that you can make big bang bangs. You're not going to find out how to make them here, even though Harry and I could make them in bulk.
No. There's lots of fun things to do. I mean, the great thing about being 10 and being inquisitive is that just about anything could be interesting. within reason,
yeah,
right? You know, so
absolutely.
you just go to the library and just read everything you read until you hit the wall where you don't have the math to read it anymore. That's what you do when you're just a little sponge.
That's what I did. I used to haunt libraries, just mow through books.
But I am interested in Prospero's book.
Yes.
I hope you don't mind me steel manning that thing, because I really do wonder about, you know, because you were talking the constitutional republic versus democracies and things. I think democracy can definitely be a problem because you need to have some breaks built into the system. Our founders were actually very smart.
Mm-hmm. You have to have conservatism built into the system. You have to make it hard to make it change. You have to give people time to think and reflect on what the wisest course is. And that is most felicitously done through a constitutional republic like we have, with the built-in safeguards against, you know, rapid and capricious change. Rapid and capricious change is what a democracy is all about. And that's what, you know, these hotheads on both sides. Yeah, let's have a democracy and mob rule. You know, hang the ones we want to hang, and they'll take the hindmost. Fuck those guys. Constitutional republic guarantees the most secure, best life for everybody. Period.
Well, I mean, how does that description of the mob rule democracy sound any different than the reign of terror?
Right. That's what that was.
Yeah.
That's what that was. You're exactly right. That's a great example.
That was
French Revolution was democracy in action.
That was demos.
Yeah,
totally.
Demos. I love it.
Totally.
Yep.
I mean, Pericles found out that it didn't work. But leave it to the French to ignore that lesson. You know. The other problem
used it's got to be learned every 2,300 years or so.
Yeah, I was gonna say it had been a while back, but at the same time, there were very learned people involved.
I might have gotten Pericles' century right. I think he was about 300 or 400 BC. I don't really remember.
I don't either. I'll do a quick Google check.
When was Pericles?
He was born in 495 BC.
Okay, so I was in the right area.
Yeah, so I mean, it's 1700. Oh, 1750. You know, Yeah. Whatever. You know, it's 1800.
Yeah, 2,200 years, not 2,300 years. 2,200 years, to be exact. 2,205.
Yep.
But anyway, but
there were learned people involved in the French Revolution, and there were learned people in support in this country initially of the French Revolution.
What about Robespierre?
He was a lawyer, for God's sake. He would have known he would have read Pericles. He would have read Plato. He would have had a class.
He spoke Latin.
He would have had
Latin.
Yeah, he had a classical education.
Yeah.
There were plenty of people who were very, very intelligent who were involved in the leadership in and around the reign between the Girondes and the more violent. You know, the Girondists were. I thought they were the more moderate people. Didn't work out for most of them. So whatever, it's just a mess.
Well, you had you have in the French Revolution a little bit of what we have now, which is you have a pretty large set of the population invested in the status quo ante. They want tomorrow to be the same as today or better. And, you know, they have hope for that. And then you had 70% of the population just living in squalor.
Yep.
And just devastating poverty. And they were seeing these other people living better than they are, very much like what is happening now. Mm-hmm. And that's what agitates a population to where they will take to the streets and begin to take action. Now, back then, a bunch of people could band together, take to the streets, and, you know, could affect government change. You could haul people out of buildings and kill them with machines.
Mm-hmm.
Now they can't do that. The government gun is too powerful. The government gun cannot be overcome unless you go in and overcome, convince the government gun to come over to your side and to where the military forces will be on your side, and then you can take over.
Slowly but surely, using public safety as an argument, the government managed to get the biggest gun. I go back to, should an individual own a mortar? I imagine that you might have gotten an argument from some of the founders that absolutely
the learning process, widespread mortar ownership, the learning process would wipe out neighborhoods.
Yes, it would.
About that.
Yes, it would. But
not sure there's a but to that.
The argument, well, I'm just talking from the perspective that
I'm teasing.
Should you have been able to discuss this with Mr. Mason and Mr. With and their fellows, Mr. Madison, Mr. Hamilton, and Mr. J.
Forget about George Mason. That's a good point.
They would have said, would the keeping of such weapons keep the government from overstepping their bounds with the citizenry? Because the purpose of the Second Amendment is rather clear to me, because I know its background. One of the reasons that the founders wanted gun ownership is so that government would not exceed its bounds and grasp.
Yep.
And take away the other rights of people. The only reason they didn't make gun ownership first is, well, number one, to them, the idea of banning self-protection in any form would be ludicrous, but they did still need to make an argument for an armed citizenry. And this militia argument that people make is so disingenuous. It's absolutely disingenuous, because a standing militia is necessary. But the people need to be armed because there's a standing militia. Not so they can be part of it, but because should that militia decide to oppress those people, they can contend with that.
Yes, exactly. They have.
That is what the wording is about.
One article that I found on it says that the Second Amendment was based partially on the right to keep and bear arms in English common law, was influenced by the English Bill of Rights of 1689. Sir William Blackstone himself described this right as an auxiliary right supporting the natural rights of self-defense and resistance to oppression, and the civic duty to act in concert in defense of the state. Any labels of rights as auxiliary must be viewed in the context of the inherent purpose of a Bill of Rights, which is to empower a group with the ability to achieve a mutually desired outcome, and not necessarily to enumerate or rank the importance of rights. So that goes on and on. But anyway, the point there is that in spite of the fact of, I was trying to think of what was that damn decision. It was McDonald versus the McDonald decision, McDonald v. City of Chicago. The Supreme Court ruled that state and local governments, can be limited to the same extent as the federal government from infringing upon the right. And then New York State Rifle and Pistol Association Incorporated v. Bruin assured that the right to carry weapons in public spaces with reasonable exceptions. And that was tested in the, I believe, the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of, that was Supreme Court.
Yeah. It was McDonald, Heller, and the one in New York that are the ones that basically the Supreme Court said shall not be infringed.
Bingo.
What about the fucking phrase shall not be infringed?
My point is that to me is a bulwark of
it is, but it won't
decided
stop them.
Precedent.
It will not stop them. And what happens is, in the meanwhile, while people wait for cases to try to get certiorari, you know, to certiorari.
They just call it cert. Every lawyer I've ever heard calls it cert.
A writ of cert. Yeah. Because it's a pain in the ass word to say. Certiorari, I think, is what
I think that's right.
It gets slurred into
certiorari. Yeah.
Yeah, certiorari. Anyway, in order for it to hit the docket of the Supreme Court, meanwhile, people sit without their rights. Because the state on the local level has the right to enforce.
I mean, like how Madison wrote in Federalist number 46, quote, a federal army could be kept in check by state militias. A standing army would be opposed by a militia. He argued that state militias would be able to, quote, would be able to repel the danger of a federal army.
Yes.
End quote.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it is clear in the Federalist Papers that they knew that what they were trying to knit together could become oppressive again.
Well, he contrasted the federal government of the United States to the European kingdoms, which he described as, quote, afraid, and this is Madison talking, afraid to trust the people with arms, look at you, France, and assured that the existence of subordinate governments forms a barrier against the enterprises of ambition.
Yes.
Looking at you, Democrats.
Well, looking at all politicians.
Yeah, exactly.
Looking absolutely at all politicians, including Abraham Lincoln. Excuse me, you invaded a state.
He also suspended habeas corpus.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not an enormous Lincoln fan.
Yeah, well,
I understand.
You just got to understand, he was not a perfect guy.
Oh, I absolutely understand that. And I know you do. I'm not a big fan of George Washington's suppression of the Whiskey Rebellion, to tell you the truth.
You know what that was? That was a way for him to get ahead. That he was bucking for promotion. I promise.
He was already president.
Oh! I thought you were talking about the rebellions that he suppressed in Western Pennsylvania.
The Whiskey Rebellion occurs after he's president.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought
it's about taxes.
It's about taxes.
That is about taxes.
I mean,
that
theft.
Is.
And it is about theft.
You're right. I got it wrong. Sorry.
It's excise tax on whiskey. Yeah. But I look. In order to understand Washington, I have to steel man the argument, and I understand it. Not a fan of it, don't really approve of it, but we were recently knitted together a collection of colonies that really needed to form a government, and a bunch of guys wanted to test that. And Washington set the precedent that the government can put down people's independence. It's a very early test, and it's one I think Washington fails because it is the first jackboot expression of government in the United States. And that's not coming from the position of people who are like, Washington fucking sucks because I'm an anarchist.
What do you think he thought, though?
I think he thought that the whole thing was going to blow apart if he didn't hold it together.
Well, I actually think it was more a thing where the people who supported George Washington came and said, hey, look, we're trying to sell whiskey out here, and these guys are undercutting our price because they're not paying any taxes. I mean, hand over fist out west of here, and they are absolutely keeping money from you. And Washington probably said, well, I've got two problems. First of all, these guys aren't paying their taxes. And secondly, they're pissing off the people who are paying the taxes and have to compete with these guys. Yeah, that's what I think he was actually caught up in.
And a rightful, and if it was a duly legislated tax, then it is a law.
If we all agree to pay taxes, you have to follow that law. Now, I think taxation is theft, and I think it's evil and should never be approved. But if you have to have it,
when you agree to a system of government in which the majority will rule on vote like that,
yep.
You know, like I said, I'm not coming at this from an anarchist perspective. It still annoys me that it was through violence, but you also had a lot of hot-headed motherfuckers on the other side. And it's that testing the authority. You basically had some anarcho-capitalists, because that term at least can function in a minor form of reality, where anarcho-communist is like, no.
Yeah.
But
being born in the United States, you know, just being born there, you are born into a system that you don't get a chance to reject as a citizen.
Correct.
You know, being born in the United States, you just missed the Ukraine on the underside and Uruguay on the forward side of being born. You could have been born in the worst place. United States of America, boy, that's hitting the bull's eye.
Yeah.
But yeah, even so, when you are born into society and you come of age and you can make decisions about where you want to live and how you want your life to go, if you continue on in that country, I think you take an implied oath to support the laws and to obey to act lawfully.
I feel absolutely a duty as a citizen of the United States to support and defend the Constitution.
Yeah. Some of my fellow libertarians don't understand why I'm so against crime.
Really?
I'm against crime. You know, they're
how
like,
peculiar,
oh, man. Government steals from you. Yeah, that doesn't make that good.
No, okay. Those libertarians annoyed the shit out of me. Oh, mainly because they are
the anarchists.
Private army.
Yeah, I mean, my private roads, my private bridges, my private army. Oh, proof that deer have formed a government. It's just...
It's like government by loot box, you know. Every time you go like 500 feet, you're going to have to basically pay to go in somebody's driveway. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's Jesus Christ. You know, I mean, do they have any idea what the roads were like?
Your rights become DLC.
Yeah. The thing
would actually make a pretty good novel.
We can't send them on a side quest and they get lost somewhere.
Green Badger made it funny. You can order feathers and tar from Amazon. Good to know.
It is. I'm a huge supporter of public shaming.
Hey, Johnny's here.
Huge supporter of it.
Hey, Johnny, let me know if you want to come on. Love to have you. Love it when the other hosts drop by. Love it when everybody drops by. Say hello to chat. Green Badger's here. Kiever Dam, how you doing?
Kiever.
Johnny and let's see.
Joel was in the chat.
Joel, earlier. I saw Joel McLaughlin up there, and who was I talking? Assassin is there, and Serenity was there. I think she might have frightened her off. I asked her if she wanted to come on. And but anyway, it's nice to have all you guys with us. And
she's got all those critters she has to take care of too.
We do.
And they demand attention.
Yes, she does. Yeah,
she's got a date with a big shovel.
Oh God, bless her. Bless her.
A lot of truth in that.
She's doing the Lord's work out there, looking after those creatures. So
I lived next to a horse ranch for 15 years. And I'll tell you, that is a lot of work.
They produce a lot of shit.
When they get through banning chemical fertilizers, we'll be wanting that.
Yep. Actually, a mixture of mixture of 50% horse manure and loamy soil and a little vermiculite. We're growing bigger tomatoes than we ever have.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
And chicken shit's pretty effective too.
Yep.
it peels
Yeah.
the
Chicken
sclera
shit is
off your eyes.
chicken shit is so hot. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That,
yeah, you've got
I forget what acid. It's probably nitric acid or something.
Get enough pig urine together, and you can start to have some fun.
Yeah, pig urine.
But horse.
People think cat urine smells bad.
Of all the manures that I've been around, horse and cow is the easiest to deal with. Chicken shit will peel the sclera off your eyeballs.
But all the ammonia in the pig urine is useful for chemistry, quote unquote.
Oh, it is, but
NH4.
I tell you, downwind, 5 miles away, there's a pig farm.
Mm-hmm.
It is rank. But horse and cow just kind of smells like gently used grass and hay.
Yeah.
With poo aroma. But it doesn't knock your head off the way pig shit and chicken shit do.
Oh no.
Wow. Those are just oh god.
But it is nice when they get the manure and they put it in the liquid, and then they drive around on the fields and just spray liquefied shit everywhere. That's not your best day in agriculture.
What you get is actually when it hits the water, you're going to get ammonium hydroxide. Promise. And you know how irritating this shit's like lye.
Yeah, that's like I said. It peels the sclera off your eyeballs.
Yeah,
I haven't noticed the burn, but I've noticed the stank before.
Yeah. That is a slightly exothermic reaction that happens, on contact.
Your eyeballs.
On contact.
Did you ever?
My cornea's going.
Did you ever check out that English series? That was the one with the Edwardian farm and Victorian farm. I think I mentioned that to you, Prospero.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's basically 3 historians, and then they do hey, we're going to move in here and live like people did it during these periods of time. It's a pretty entertaining thing, and there's some aspects to agriculture in the UK.
Like really invested supersizers.
Well,
wow.
Yeah, there's things about agriculture in the UK which I didn't really understand. Like it's foreign to me, the idea that you'd have to basically put lime all over a field to get anything to grow in it. Because here, pretty much you just, poke a hole in the ground and drop a seed in and shit grows.
Thanks, Michael Bloomberg. Yes.
I'm just used to like soil being way more fertile than it is there. But in order for those people to actually grow crops and live, you had to be pretty clever, because a lot of that land, between drainage issues and problems with pH and fertilizing, and you couldn't grow anything unless you knew what you were doing. And it took hundreds of years for people to figure this crap out.
Yes. There's a lot of institutional knowledge in farming. You're talking to the
it's why
somebody who has a real appreciation for that.
Yeah.
Well, the quicklime stuff, what they would do is like make it up in solutions on the inside of the room where you'd manage all the dairy, because it had to be antiseptic. You would clean with lime and you would paint with lime, and it would actually seal the stone. And between it made things hygienic and relatively low in bacteria. So when you went to do things like make cheese, you actually made the cheese you wanted to make and not some horrible accident. I was very impressed with the level of ingenuity that people had just sort of amassed over time. I get very tired of people go, well, look at the pyramids. How could they have not done that without aliens helping? It's like, I don't know. They were pretty bored. They had nothing to do most of the time, because it would flood, they would drink beer, and then they'd work their asses off doing agriculture. And they had a whole bunch of months of the year. The Egyptians had way more free time than a lot of other primitive people did, basically. So they went out and got to build these amazing monuments. It's like, I don't think that humans are stupid, and I don't think that primitive humans are stupid. Mm-hmm. They had all the time in the world to figure shit out. So just because we don't know how they did stuff doesn't mean aliens did it.
And also because the Egyptians, they had the floods, and then they had the growing season, but this was all getting all the work done to get the growing season to survive to the next year was all kind of like a hyperactive race.
Yep.
They needed to be very grateful to their gods.
Well, they didn't have to spend months and months building up a winter's worth of firewood.
Right.
I mean, they were very
They were in a temperate climate.
Right. They were very uniquely positioned in terms of just having a bounty of food and a bounty of time, because in the past, time was the one thing that nobody had, except the Egyptians could just go build big pyramids and stuff, and that worked.
Yeah, and they had pretty decent results in the Fertile Crescent too.
Yeah.
Basically with the same thing, the Tigris, the Euphrates, the alluvial floods, the soil's perfect, let's go. And you get there were some impressive monuments built there too.
Well, they had invaders every couple hundred years because both of the rivers were like big super highways that the savages could get on. So you'd build something and then people would just come in and tear it down.
Knock it down. Yeah. So they didn't endure. And then, of course, modern times has seen the wanton and willful destruction of some ancient ruins in the area. But yeah, the Egyptians got lucky because it wasn't like a giant throughway where they were. As vastly unappealing as so much of the area looks like, the Levant was extremely successful. But it just kept changing hands.
Did you hear? Did you hear about the latest SJW kerfuffle? Which is they're talking about they're getting annoyed with Aretha Franklin because of the. I used to just jokingly call her that.
I swear to God.
Yes, but she would the song "Natural Woman." You know.
Yeah.
I guess some trans people finally discovered it, and now they're pissed off. Now, we don't know who these people are or whether they even matter, but yeah, this is the new thing.
I don't care. I don't care if they're pissed off. Shut up. Shut up, you whiny little cunts.
They're telling Spotify, but it's like actual violence against me to have this song exist.
No, it isn't. She isn't dead naming you. Suck a dick.
Lighting a city on fire is not violence, according to CNN. But
yeah, I know
words that we don't like, those are violence.
Well, nothing happened in Atlanta either.
No, nothing. I mean, it's just another day in Hotlanta.
Nothing happened. It's just all being exaggerated by right-wing extremists, I'm sure, because that's all Hakeem Jeffries can say. Robert Reich is puking out fake numbers. Twitter is a shithole of lunatic losers. Ro Cannon, Hakeem Jeffries. Oh my God.
You mean Rokana?
Rokana. Yeah, that's
yeah, he's one of our assholes. Sorry.
He's one of yours, buddy.
He's one of ours.
Loose cannon.
Yeah.
He's actually a really nice guy, but a complete fucking communist.
He's an idiot.
Andrew Yang's a really nice guy, but I don't want him running anything.
Yeah.
I like a couple of Yang's ideas. I'd like to incorporate them. I'm a believer in the UBI. I think we're going to need one.
I don't think luxury socialism is coming for a while.
No. That's not going to happen. But what we can do, what we really are positioned to do, if we want to do it, is to be ready for when the populace. I know our country doesn't ever get ready for anything. We just react to crises. But if we plan for one time in our country's life, plan for the day when a lot of people are not going to have jobs. They're not going to be jobs for most of the people. Probably less than 10% of the country, and might be less than 5%, will actually be compensated for work that they do. That's the shift that will happen over the next 100 years, and we need to be ready for that.
100. You really think it'll happen within 100 years?
Well, yeah, I do think that will happen easily within 100 years. I actually think that will happen. I think that will happen in 50 years, and it may happen in 20.
What about?
I do.
What's going to happen to agriculture?
What do you mean?
I mean, you're talking about a fifth of the people being employed.
You're going to
Boston Dynamics.
Lot more people in this country. You're going to have a lot of people.
Well, you're just talking about the
you're going to have
border situation.
huge labor pool for the ags and the
if you continue to
processors.
If you continue not to control the border, yes.
That's never going to be controlled. The Republicans don't want to control it. They don't want to have any part of that. That's political death. Everybody who touches that gets hurt. That's what Kamala Harris knew. That's what she got told. They said, don't you touch that border. You touch that thing, it's like a third rail.
What is the matter with the people in this country?
I know.
I mean, seriously. I guess our biggest mistake was not invading Canada.
Our biggest mistake was not invading Washington, D.C.
Well, but what I'm saying is that I guess Abbott and DeSantis should have been flying people all the way into Canada and, in remote areas and leaving them there and going, if you're going to use people as pawns, which, excuse me, they didn't start. I mean, everybody's using these people as pawns. There are some people I feel, terribly sorry for because bad things happen to good people every day all over this globe. But it's if the United States gets to the point that we don't even consider ourselves to have borders, I mean, it's great that we could be prepared for UBI, but I think we're done if that's the case.
What do you think is going to happen when we have a 70% unemployment rate?
Oh,
that
done.
Will happen.
You'll
see that in 20 years. You'll see that in 20 years.
I think we're done I think if we're even at the point where we have to have a UBI, we're over.
No, it's a complicated problem, but it's actually solvable. The problem is we'll react to it as a crisis, and then we'll piecemeal a solution that will be miserable for everybody and could have been avoided in the first place.
Well, they won't get rid of all the other entitlements, so it's like whenever anybody mentions VAT, I feel like just screaming.
This is why I want Al Gore in jail, just for the lockbox comment. That just pissed me off.
Yeah. Well,
it's in a lockbox. Fuck you for Christmas.
It's never been any such thing. It's been a Ponzi scheme since the minute it got cooked up. Fuck you, FDR. And fuck you, Woodrow Wilson, for good measure, because I haven't mentioned you today.
But if you go back through the history, you see some attempts at keeping the spenders away from the Social Security cookie jar, and I am tempted when I see each one to just go, "Aw, so cute! He's trying to resist spending the money."
But what if we took that money?
2 years later, it's spent.
Well, what if we took that money that's just sitting there waiting for people to retire and did something with it that would benefit everybody, Skep?
Like give it to Ukraine?
You can do that. You could invest it. That'd be a great idea. But
you give it back to people.
But redistribute it to completely unproductive enterprises. You might as well burn it for heat.
Well, honest to God, the Twitter feeds are interesting because there are enough people that actually are paying some attention. That fucking Reich. 2014 to current day.
The Economist, who's not an economist.
Yeah, really. My God. It's just, $7.25 for the minimum wage.
Fucking MAGA.
And you saw what I said on Twitter. It was like if you and your DC buddies, both parties, would stop fucking printing money, well, then maybe our money value would not devalue as quickly as it does. You've made this bed, but you're not the one lying in it. You're still collecting a paycheck.
Yeah.
As a professor of God knows the fuck what, because if it wasn't at a law school, you don't deserve to be teaching anything. That's the only thing you're qualified for, Bobby. You nasty, vile, little, disingenuous, lying piece of shit troll.
Nasty piece of work.
He's a horrible human being. He is just wretched. Now, Rob Reiner is mentally ill, so God bless him.
Meathead?
Yeah, he can rant on Twitter till the cows come home. He has severe issues. It's kind of clear.
Well, he's a monomaniac. He's so much like Alex Baldwin. It's not even funny.
Well, Rob Reiner,
they are so obsessed with themselves.
Is more of a monomaniac, possibly, than the object of his loathing.
You might be right. Although Trump is world class.
Trump is a world class monomaniac.
Yeah, he's amazing monomaniac.
Rob is utterly insane.
Yeah.
Kind of like oh God.
Get somebody on the right so we can balance this out.
Randy Quaid.
Yeah, or Sarah Palin. Yeah.
Bless him. I don't think Sarah Palin is insane.
I think she's a knothead. I think she has some very loose understandings of how the world operates.
You betcha.
Yeah.
Well, I can see Russia from my window. Well, you can't.
Something she never said.
I know.
You know, and that's part of the issue.
But that's kind of her persona. I know that's not being fair to her. But if you look what she has said, it's pretty nutty.
Well, it took her 4 schools to complete a communications degree.
Yeah, that's fine. There are a lot of
that's like Kamala Harris levels of not getting it.
I'd say it's Joe Biden's levels too. But Joe Biden served in the Senate for years, and most people didn't run around calling him an idiot.
Senator Mediocre.
He was shell-shocked from all of his traumatic experience in the Spanish-American War or something.
Whatever.
When he got
stolen valor.
I'm so surprised he hasn't discussed being with the Rough Riders in Cuba with Teddy.
There I was, pinned down by enemy fire. Teddy led us up the hill.
Honest to God, you know.
Speaking of things that never happened.
Well, and also, but at least Teddy Roosevelt was.
He was there.
Colorful, entertaining there, and
he wasn't riding point anywhere.
It always chaps my ass a little bit when people refer to Teddy Roosevelt as a progressive. He was, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, he was and he wasn't. He had a foot in reality. When you're talking about the early progressive movement, what Woodrow Wilson made of it was nothing like what Roosevelt was.
But what he did with the national monuments and the parks was visionary.
It was. It was. It was encouraging America to view some of their wonderlands as just absolutely
as having real value. Being worth preserving.
And encouraging people to come see for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I've no objection to the notion of like a national parks department.
Mm-hmm.
I think
give something for the Department of Interior to actually do.
Except for fuck around with the Bureau of Indian Affairs and ruin a lot of people's lives. Or did they fall under HE? I don't know. I think they worked at Interior. BIA was Interior.
Well, I don't know who they fall under. I used to.
Let's just destroy the lives of human beings for shits and giggles because we didn't do it enough in the 19th century. The reason I hate the Bureau of Indian Affairs is that they kept perpetuating the lies.
Interior, by the way.
Yeah, they kept perpetuating lies that you and I weren't around to agree to those lies, and we might have called them on them at the time. But lie on top of lie on top of lie, and
how much do you think their budget is? What do you think the BIA's budget is?
I don't want to know. This is going to give me hives.
It's $2 billion a year.
Oh my God!
I knew you really wanted to know.
Shit.
That's B like boy. This is the Bureau of Indian Affairs. This is just the department budget
for providing
just the department budget.
Fuck all, except to borrow Hate Camel's thing, the squeakiest wheels is fucking Navajo.
Yeah.
But it's
they stand up for their rights. The Apache did, like the Civicese and the Mescaleros. They're just sullen. They just fuck you, But the Navajos are, no, we'll work with you. Give us some money.
Yeah,
it seems to work for them.
Know how to capitalize on it, and also take all the attention off the other tribes, and all the credit for a lot.
That's what the Apaches are pissed off about. They really hate the Navajos.
Well,
People don't realize that.
According to, I don't think Hammer. Listen to me. I don't think Camel's real fond of the Navajo either.
Mm.
So
they're kind of a commercial tribe.
That might be the Choctaw Nation's point of view too.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if the Oklahoma Cherokee don't like them much either.
Just generally resented, probably. I mean, everybody knows Navajo stuff. Most of the stuff's produced overseas.
Well, and also
they sell it on the reservations.
Yeah,
sell it near the reservations because people with any sense don't drive on the reservation.
Well, the Hopi lands do too, because you can't. I remember leaving the Grand Canyon. Now, this was way back in the 1980s, so I'm sure things have not changed. In passing a stand that literally had a sign that said, "We take them, check."
What?
Yes.
It really did?
It said, "We take them, check." And I looked at my cousin and I was like, God, I am insulted on behalf of every single Indian in this country.
Yeah.
The fuck is that about?
I
mean, just have some goddamn self-respect. Just
there are it's slurs are hateful. That's one thing I really don't like about our culture is the way that the races slur one another, and this whole racial resentment that seems to have taken root in our modern society. Boy, I don't want to say too much about it because we can get into trouble, and I hate that.
Tale as old as time.
Yeah.
I mean, when has there not been animosity between different groups?
Yeah.
Yes.
Never. I'm just going to, my anthropological survey, and I'll bet Prospero's historical survey, I bet we would both say never.
Yeah, I mean, we're the first, modern times, the first time when outgroup preference has really become a thing. I mean, you'd see it to lesser degrees in the past, but now it's like, no, let's favor people who are, do we perceive as oppressed or whatever. And it's just some variation on kind of the noble savage thing anyway.
Yes, it is. And
this is the way they look at it, not what I actually think.
Well, it's patriotic.
I'm not calling people savages because that's not what I mean. But I think that a lot of liberal nitwits who claim to be, so progressive and whatever, they really just can't help but look down on those poor people that they're trying to help.
Yeah, scratch a liberal, find a racist.
Yeah,
bingo.
And, well, current definition of liberal, scratch a small L liberal from how Skep and I would class ourselves.
Yes, as classical liberals.
And you find a person who does not want people punished if they say colloquialisms that they have spoken since they were in high school, but they don't match the race. We don't want people punished for that. But a little decorum would be nice. And it's all well and good to take a slur, embrace it, and remove the power to hurt from it. It's another to then turn around and say, I'm going to use it as every other word.
Fair enough. It's tiresome.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. If you ignore them and don't say anything about the use of the term, people usually will stop calling you names if you don't feed their need.
Mm.
The old ignore the bully. There are a few people that I would have liked to have kicked the shit out of when I was younger because of how they treated me or what they did in a particular, environment, but I'd been taught to ignore them, so I did. And there was no repetition of the behavior because they got no feedback. We were taught to do that. We were also taught to be polite. And there were
not engage, yeah.
But there were also certain words that one did not use.
Oh, yeah. No, the N-word being prime among them.
Absolutely. I learned that lesson at age 6.
I think it's interesting how we tiptoe around by saying the N-word and saying the actual word could get you
thrown off
real
YouTube.
Trouble.
Because
there's something that
you're not Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, well, yeah, I understand, but it seems like we should be worrying. We have other things that we need to be worrying about.
Yes,
a lot more than that. But anyway, people, it's what people worry about.
They're continuing to give the word power. They claim they took the power of the word away.
You hit it. That's a home run statement right there.
Give the word power.
That's a home run statement.
It is a word. Dick Gregory.
That's exactly right.
Wrote an autobiographical memoir.
What was the name of that? What was it?
The N-word. It's the name of the book is The N-word.
That's what I thought it was. I was
but thinking, the real word.
Did he name it what I thought he named it?
What the real word.
Yeah.
Now, I carried that book.
Dollar N-word.
with me. In 8th grade.
No, it's for Harry.
As I changed classes in junior high school. Because I was reading it. For a paper. In junior high school, I chose it. I chose the book. Because I was interested in it. And I learned a lot. That's how I know who Medgar Evers was.
Mm-hmm.
None of my history teachers would have taught me about Medgar Evers. But I know who Medgar Evers was. God rest him and the injustice done to him and his family.
Oh, man.
Took forever.
That was
to write.
Up.
Took forever to write. And
it was never righted. I mean, they found the guy and tried him, but
he was in his 70s, and the prick, the prick enjoyed the fact that he'd killed Medgar in his driveway.
He should have gone
with
to
his
the
wife
gas chamber years before.
Jesus Christ! It's amazing he didn't kill anybody else in the house.
Yeah,
but that's okay. It was all right to deny Medgar Evers his right to self-protection.
Oh, God damn it. That is just so that's such an ugly chapter. It really stuck with you, didn't it?
Yeah, and the NRA,
Me too.
did stick up for the right, for the Negro man in areas where he was not safe to arm himself.
Mm-hmm.
But he was prohibited. Dr. King tried to get a gun, tried to get a license to get a gun. Permission. Had to ask for permission to get a gun. Thanks, Woodrow Wilson.
Jim Crow was a real thing. I hate that. And that really did put a lot of families back. And that's where that's where the call for reparations is coming from these families, from these people who say, because these families are not as prosperous, not as wealthy, not as successful and healthy, and all the other things Americans strive for, as other people from other families from the same time that were in similar circumstances, that delta is due to the Jim Crow laws. And I actually don't have any trouble understanding that and believing it, at least qualitatively to some extent. But you can't quantify it, and you can't put a number on it.
You can't write reparations. You can't write that wrong.
Not with that attitude, you can't.
There is no right.
Attitude is based on logic.
They put a number on it in California. It was like 3.5 million, and then they changed it to 5 million, and it just keeps going up.
5 million in debt forgiveness.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about the debt forgiveness.
And all that money will be gone because I'm sorry, it's like winning the lottery. Go take a look at the arc of most people who win the lottery and see what kind of money they have in 5 years. It's.
I was afraid you were gonna use the N word again.
No, it's not good.
Oh God.
No.
That used to be a phrase that people would use.
Susan, forgive us.
Yeah.
I didn't get near saying that. I wasn't even thinking that. But it's.
No, we don't deal in stereotypes. That's the thing.
Well, I didn't even think of it.
There was a link that I sent Skep. Did you see it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's in the private chat.
Yeah. Hang on.
I think you probably are already familiar with it, but I thought you might be amused.
Oh. Looking in the wrong place.
Oh my gosh.
Private chat. You have that up.
One of my favorite pieces of research ever.
Oh, yes. Yes, I think I know what this is.
People adjusting their vocabulary and adjusting their... Yes,
competence downshift.
Yeah, you're too stupid to understand what I'm about to say.
Well, no, it's... I'm not quite sure what the reason is, but basically, in a nutshell, progressives, when they're around... people from underrepresented groups, what they view as being underrepresented, they tend to behave as if they're less competent.
Yes.
Wouldn't want to intimidate you.
They call it self-presentation in interracial settings. The competence downshift by white liberals. Listen to the abstract. Just listen to the couple of sentences here. Most whites, white W with a capital W, particular socio-political liberals, now endorse racial equality. Archival and experimental research reveals a subtle but persistent ironic consequence. White liberals self-present less competence to minorities than to other whites. That is, they patronize minorities stereotyped as lower status and less competent. In an initial archival demonstration of the competence downshift, the study examined the content of white Republican and Democratic presidential campaign speeches. Although Republican candidates did not significantly shift language based on audience racial composition, Democratic candidates used less competence-related language to minority audience than to white audiences. And then it goes into the quantitative part of they back this thing up, word by word, letter by letter, phrase by phrase.
And they take hot sauce to radio interviews and they magically develop Southern accents. It's remarkable. Because one thing that did occur with the Northern migration, which everybody knows about demographically, if you've looked at history, after the Civil War, there was massive Black migration to the North. And
they call it their diaspora.
Yeah, and
they call it the second diaspora. That's what it is. Yeah,
I actually, the first was not a diaspora, but go ahead.
They call it that.
Fine. That's not what diaspora means, but rock on with your bad self.
Well, you couldn't call it black flight because they were mostly walking on the ground, right? Fact check.
Yeah,
that's a good point. They weren't flying. They were fleeing, not flying.
That tide actually did turn, and there was some reverse migration of late toward the South, because the South stopped being a bunch of dimwit liberals that did shit like that report discusses.
Well, you get rid of the dogs and the fire hoses, and it seems downright friendly down there.
Yeah, it does. And people get over it.
Yeah,
and there are a lot of people of Southern heritage who did the hard work of getting over it. Not that they ever really had that much to get over. It's like the great party shift. You've heard me mention my parents voted for Eisenhower in 1952. My parents were both Southern Democrats prior to that. They didn't need some great awakening in the 60s at the behest of Richard Nixon's Southern strategy to suddenly see the light.
I think it's interesting that they considered Eisenhower unstoppable against Truman.
Yeah, well, it's my mother didn't like Adelaide Stevenson.
Yeah, and that was why Truman, I think, really didn't run.
Yep. Well,
He
had
was
they passed
intimidating.
the amendment?
Which one?
The
What
one
amendment?
the one that prohibited the third term. Had they passed that yet?
I don't think so. That's the 25th, and that didn't happen until.
Well,
No, it's not the 25th.
Yeah, he had served.
The,
Truman had finished.
hang on, I'll tell you.
More than 2 years worth of Roosevelt's term. So, under that law, he was only eligible to run in 48, not in 52, which is why Adlai Stevens.
22nd Amendment, and the 22nd Amendment was the two. No person shall be elected to the office of president more than twice. No person who has held the office of president acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of president more than once. So, and that was passed.
Ratified, actually.
Can't.
It was quickly done.
Yeah, it seems like that was done immediately after Roosevelt died. I think you're right. I think he might have been prohibited, but he would have been creamed by Eisenhower into paste.
Mm-hmm.
He was so unpopular by that time with enough of the country that Eisenhower, the war hero, are you kidding me? His biggest problem was he was Republican.
Yep. But he got elected anyway.
Yep. Yeah. All the Democrats from the South came up and voted for him, like you were saying.
51.
Yeah, that would have been
51 before. Was the ratification because
what was it before November? I know it was before November. February. So it
was
been
formally proposed in 47. Ratified February 27, 51.
How'd they ratify that? They did that state by state, right?
Yeah, they have to do it that way.
They do a constitutional convention.
Well, no, we haven't had one of those.
Could be some fun. Could be some fun, eh?
No.
Every time I hear somebody say they want one of those, it's like no.
I have to tell them that as much as I would like one in the proper spirit of the thing, for the love of God, no, because they would completely get rid of the Electoral College. They would ruin everything. We'd go to mob rule, and we'd all be picking lice out of our hair in no time.
It's good protein.
Oh, shut up.
What Klaus Schwab says.
I would have a
Klaus
constitutional amendment.
Is a louse.
I would have a constitutional amendment to ban reality shows. As long as we're going to infringe on the right of free speech, let's do this right. I'd get rid of those right off the bat.
I'd rather make sure none of that Bilderberg or Davos crowd.
And no junk sports either.
Foot in this country.
What is ping pong doing on TV?
Oh, God damn it!
Only manly sports.
I'll be right back.
Ping pong is a lot more impressive than you're giving it credit for being, but I suspect you already know that.
I do, of course.
Table tennis is actually amazing. It's a pretty rough sport.
Yes.
One of my good friends back when he used to play often, he was ranked. I mean, in terms of point score, they have like this point ranking. He was above 2,000.
Wow.
And he would regularly. To be like world class, you have to be about 2,500. So for a not professional, he was quite good.
Okay, yeah, top notch. Going to beat anybody in the club.
Oh well, there were people who would regularly come by who were like these 70-year-old Chinese people that used to be on the Olympic team back in the day, and you'd be surprised how vigorous those old Chinese women and men can be.
They're real devious with their serves too. I've seen some amazing serves.
But some of those Scandinavian players, they do this thing where they call looping, where the ball basically gets a tremendous amount of spin and flies way up in the air, and when it comes down, you're not really sure where it's going to go. It is a complicated and much more difficult game than people realize. So I have actually played a little bit.
They're putting a downward spin on the ball. It bounces way high in the air, and it's going to come down somewhere on the opponent's table. God knows where, spinning God knows which way.
Yeah, and when it hits the paddle, part of the game is sort of figuring out what kind of spin your opponent's going to put on it. So that thing just basically goes in the air, and you're like, oh, hang time. No, that thing hits your paddle, and it goes God knows where.
And that opponent's watching the paddle of the server to see what angle it strikes the ball at, and that starts his movement to one side or the other, because that's probably how they discern which way the spin of the ball is going to
right.
go.
Well, it's not just there's limited in terms of what motions you can actually make since you're human, but there's the angle that you hit it at, but there's also the direction and velocity that the paddle's moving at when it hits at that angle. It's a much harder game than people realize.
I have to see that. I have not seen the looping. It makes a lot of sense. I used to ask why people didn't hit the shot way up in the air. I was asking this back in the 70s when the U.S. team went to China.
Mm-hmm.
What would be wrong with the strategy of hitting it way high in the air, like 100 feet in the air? If you could control where it came down, it would be disorienting to the other player, and all you'd have to do is just continue to do that. That's the shot you need to perfect, is to be on your return, and after that, all you need is a serve.
Yeah, well, like tennis, you've got a human being who can put a ton of in a much smaller space with a much smaller ball. You've got the same human body able to impart rather large amounts of spin and velocity. It's a super fast game. And some of the people who are somebody who's really good at it is kind of terrifying.
Ping pong still? Table
tennis, yes.
Yes.
Or as Boris called it that one time, whiff-waff.
Yeah.
Whiff-waff.
Man,
He's talking about the people who played it, and he has the lisp.
A sandpaper paddle will change your life.
Yeah. No, my friend who was good at this sort of thing, he actually made a paddle for me. And he actually put it together and put the right kind of material on it. It's just like car racing, depending on the weather and what kind of circumstances you're playing under. You want to have a different paddle with a different finish.
Mm-hmm.
Which wax do you use for your skis?
Yep.
Applied physics.
Which also known as normal life.
Yeah, normal life. Somebody asked me, how do you learn to play pool? And I said, well, it's geometry and physics. And
one beer at a time.
It depends on which you want to consider came first.
No, but seriously, part of how I learned how to play was there was this one guy who he was kind of down and out, but he used to be sort of a pool champion, real quiet guy, and he would give everybody one chance to beat him before he would just completely emasculate you. And the price for a lesson from Johnny was you had to buy him a beer when you lost. And I happily would buy him a beer or two or three, because every game I played against that guy, I learned something.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. What made me like it was the one part of the high school physics class I took, which wasn't the football physics version. It was the one with the math that I sucked at. We did vectors, and I like geometry too. Those were the two things that I kind of clicked on. Although wavelengths.
You enjoyed Snell's law.
Wavelengths were interesting. But it was kind of fun when I was also talking about explaining to Cree. He was like, how did you make that shot? Now, it was not a great shot. I'm not all that good at pool. I just like thwanking balls around. But I also like playing with spin, knowing that an object spinning in a direction when it hits something solid is going to spin in the other, the transfer of motion, that kind of thing. And so I had been doinking around on the table, both using bumper, but also ball to ball, just for yucks, and started explaining to him, and he was like, aha. And then I saw him begin to do the calculations. And I was like, see, it adds a measure of intellect to a social sport. It's not really intellect. It's just applying it. I can't do backspin for shit. I will rabbit a cue ball down a hole right behind the 8 ball faster than you can say Bob's your uncle.
Mm-hmm.
I suck. I just can't master getting that right on the ball.
I could fix that for you. I could totally, I mean, honestly, with an afternoon of practice and then follow-up practice by you, you'd have it down in no time at all.
Well, you'll have to video yourself sometime and say, it's how you do it. Because it's the one thing that drives me madder than anything about playing pool is how often I do that. It's like, why can't I?
Yeah, it is frustrating to make a good shot and then watch the cue ball follow something into a pocket.
For sake. It is just, it's one thing early in a game because it's like, okay, fine. And we're not playing strict 8 ball, where it's by numbers, it's solid stripes kind of game. But oh my God, when it's the 8, when it's the 8, your winning shot, and I just lost the game.
Yeah, you just have to learn a couple things and then do drills, and then you could fix. I have no doubt in my mind that you could master backspin without a problem.
It's just terribly frustrating.
You just haven't had the Satori yet.
Yeah, you're right.
Johnny will help you with that. Unfortunately, I think he's dead. But anyway.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, that guy had a hard life. He's a good guy, though.
Can't win them all. But
well, he did, except for that last one.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, pool is a fun game, and
it's a very social game, and you can play
it is.
You can play it not care, and you can play it and care.
Well, okay. On a serious note, back when in the pre-COVID days when I used to go do things, you'd hear about people who were just sort of socially outcast, right? And they'd say, "Oh, I don't have any friends. I don't know anybody. I can't do anything," and they would just sit there and grumble, and then maybe go ballistic on their workplace at some point. And I'd look around and I would see all these people, with the benefit of a little social lubricant. All it takes is a few bucks to get like a light beer that you can just sort of nurse. Mm-hmm. And there are places where you can just go and be around people.
I like bowling for the same reason.
Bowling, darts is great.
Darts is a lot of fun.
Dart leagues are tons of fun. Bowling leagues, get yourself in a league. Go volunteer for bird counting with the Audubon Society. Mm-hmm. Honestly, there's so many things people can do. The last thing you should do is just stay home and be lonely all the time.
Yeah,
it's a cheap date basically to go out and nurse one beer for a few hours and hang out and talk to people. Mm-hmm. So I just wonder why more people didn't do that.
Yeah. What do you think I'm doing?
I don't know, Skep.
You guys are my friends.
Maligning ping pong.
Maligning ping pong. No, I actually have a lot of respect for the sport.
At least we didn't. When you were putting it together constitutional amendments, you didn't outlaw soccer. I was kind of surprised.
No, I'd outlaw football.
Yeah.
But not American football.
Thank you.
Football.
Dude, exactly. the boring.
Everybody. Have you ever watched Australian football?
Yes, it's fabulous.
Oh my God, those guys are insane.
They are. Yeah. It's like watching rugby. Rugby's
it's like a faster version of rugby with more kicking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, what I like about rugby is you don't
violence, the teeth on the ground.
No, you don't see that as much in rugby anymore. Mainly because they don't wear big, thick helmets where they think they can get away with hitting each other in the head. And you get the rugby version of red card. You're out for you're gone. You're gone. You're out of the game. Goodbye. You know, you solve the. I mean, it used to be that rugby players, if you ran into one and he wasn't concussed, you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, they're actually looking after the mental well-being of the players. But I mean, yeah, rugby is intensely physical, but they're not wearing all that damn padding.
Well, the thing is, in rugby,
300 pounds.
In rugby, you usually don't run as fast as they run in Australian rules football because those guys just go, they just go balls to the wall. Yeah. I've never seen anything quite like that.
It's wildly entertaining in the kicking. The kicking.
Oh yeah, I agree completely.
Oh my god, I fucking love that. It's like basketball with kicking.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And see, that appeals to me because the only thing fun about soccer was being a goalie and wailing the shit out of a soccer ball like you were playing a football. It was just
But the action is so much fun, and I like American football too. Don't get me wrong. Don't just because I quit watching pro football a long time ago doesn't mean I don't.
Except during
occasionally watch
break down.
Well, yeah, I've been watching the highlights this year. I watched the Cowboys get their asses kicked.
Oh Jesus God, that was tragic.
That was needless.
No pitchy woo woo. It was pitchy bam.
Yeah,
it was. Actually, the best
offensive line did not come.
Oh my good God, I don't know what was going on, and I don't know what was going on with the Buffalo Bills. I really don't know. I expected the Bills-Bengals game to be the Chiefs-Bills game of last year.
The best two teams in football.
Holy shit, was that game amazing last year? Actually, so far, the best playoff game I've seen. And mind you, San Francisco didn't play as well as they could have either, offensively. But
no. In fact, I would say
turn over the
San
ball.
Francisco's actually a better team.
Oh yeah, they are. And that kid, the who?
Yeah.
Brock Purdy?
Yeah. Purdy.
Yeah. Everybody should pay attention to his name.
Yeah.
That kid is one of
the doesn't get hurt.
Coolest, collected. He's like Joe Cole. He's like Joe Burrow. Bills,
who's the kid on the Bills? What's that guy's name?
Josh Allen.
Josh.
No. Yeah, Josh Allen.
Josh Allen. That's what I was thinking.
Now the game to have seen so far was the wild card game between the Chargers and the Jags.
Yeah.
When Trevor Lawrence threw the ball away 4 times in the first half and then came back in the second half and ate the Chargers lunch, fed it to them, and then made them pay for it.
He rehabilitated himself.
That's he has. I watched that kid at Clemson.
Yeah.
He's very, very talented.
Yeah, he is.
Very, very talented. He's had some difficulty transitioning to the pros. The coach they have now, Doug Peterson, who backed up Brett Favre at the Green Bay Packers, knows the goddamn.
Oh, that Peterson?
That Doug Peterson is the coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Huh.
That's why Trevor Lawrence has gotten better.
Mm-hmm. That's not a bad mentor.
Doug Peterson.
That's not a bad mentor at all.
Doug Peterson won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
With the Philadelphia Eagles with a backup quarterback, Nick Foles. Because he changed the style of play to suit his quarterback. And he got the offense to agree to do this. And it was awesome. Doug Peterson has balls of steel as a football coach. But that
he has a lot of common sense, don't you think?
Yes, he does. Yeah. And he's a very calm man.
He's a very calm guy. That's what I've heard.
He's a very calm guy. He knows the game. He knows, and he is willing to go balls to the wall.
It's a quarterback. That's the highest pressure job. It's even higher than a kicker because it's pressure. It's kicker pressure every play.
Yeah, and too much so. I have enjoyed seeing the rise of the running quarterback.
Yeah, me too.
To the return to them actually being a back.
Yeah, the direct snaps, the sudden proliferation of direct snaps,
rather than the
where there's a halfback standing next to the quarterback and he gets the snap instead of the quarterback, or there's a fake. Yeah. There's more imagination coming into the running game than I remember seeing in years.
You're hearing the term flea flicker again.
Right. Yeah, Statue of Liberty.
It went a long you went a long while without seeing too many flea flickers. Those were more desperation plays. I've seen some just amazingly thoughtful plays.
The problem with the flea flicker is it takes too long to develop, and with the way defensive ends are and defensive tackles are, they just will tear an offensive line apart. Given enough time, the defense always wins. The defense always beats the offensive line. But do they beat them in time? That's the whole $64 question.
Yeah, and it depends on how quickly you move the ball. The AFC Championship game ought to be interesting. Unfortunately, Patrick Mahomes has a high ankle sprain, which it's going to limit him.
So he's going to be a pocket passer. He's still amazing. He's
very, very good as a pocket passer.
He has the fastest release in the league, period.
Yes. Yeah, and
I mean in a class by himself. There's not even a comparable person.
The speed of release has increased. In a lot of these guys. Joe Burrow, Tony Romo, who is he's really he's such an excitable boy.
I cannot listen to Tony Romo, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean he's constantly
he's a hick.
He's constantly breathless. It's and it's like, God, give the guy a Vicodin. Hey man, it's just
give him an Ativan.
That might work. Maybe hit him with a trank dart. I don't know. But Jim Nantz is so fucking boring because he's a golf announcer. Doing football where blah, 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 blah. And they, I guess, decided pairing him with Romo would be a good thing. But I still
pairing anybody with Romo is destroying the broadcast as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I feel bad.
I can't listen to that guy.
I think Tony Romo is a great guy.
He's probably a fine guy, but he
just doesn't
he's an
need
idiot about football. I mean, he's an idiot about talking about football. He obviously really knows his stuff, but he just he's very unsophisticated thought process.
Yeah, and during the Bills game, he made Cole Beals is watch him come up here, and it's like he's not going to do that, and he didn't do it in the subsequent play either. Why are you telestrating this? You're not John Madden. John Madden mainly telestrated defensive play, which helped me learn more about defense in football than any other human being on the planet, was John Madden telestrating defense. Mm. But anyhow.
Interesting when you remember that he was an offensive guard when he played for the New York Giants.
That's nice, but he also, had an amazing...
well, my point is that he was trained on offense. He was an authority on football, as far as I can tell.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Madden,
absolutely, completely.
A lot of people didn't like John Madden. I found him, and especially paired with someone like Al Michaels.
Yeah, right.
Who's taken a lot of heat for the Chargers-Jags game.
Yeah.
He and Tony Dungy. Look, Tony Dungy's not Mr. Electric. He's never going to be Mr. Electric. But he fucking knows football.
Yeah.
And Al Michaels, I still think, is one of the best play-by-play guys I've ever heard in my life. I know.
Oh, yeah. He's old school.
I know Pat Summerall is the best. And saying anything otherwise will set Twitter on fire. But
I'll say it. I think Pat Summerall is okay, but I think he's just okay.
I thought I love Al Michaels, and
I love Al Michaels too.
When he was paired with Chris Collinsworth,
Yeah, that was
magic.
That's ideal. That's ideal because Collinsworth is a really smart guy.
Yeah,
and he's also football smart too, like you say.
And he played corner.
Who? Chris Collinsworth?
Yeah, he was a cornerback. If I recall, his defensive protection on pass.
Who am I thinking of? That's the wide receiver. That's the commenter.
Well, he may have been a wide receiver.
I think he was
but I think he was. I thought he played corner.
You're probably right.
Anyhow, I mean, Mike Tirico is doing a very good job. Al Michaels went over to Amazon Prime, and he's paired with the ESPN college football guy.
It's funny to think of Amazon Prime as being, a TV outlet. That's the way my brain still thinks of things.
Yeah, that they had Thursday Night Football. Kirk Herbstreit, who does a lot of the college games. For ESPN, ABC ESPN, was paired with him. And he's good. It took me a while to get used to him. I mean, I was accustomed to Tirico because he filled in for Al's weekends off. And he and Collinsworth worked fine together. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman went to ESPN. They left Fox. And
they left Fox.
Yeah, and traveled over to ESPN for Monday Night Football, which dramatically improved Monday Night Football.
Oh, yeah.
It was the one night that I had trouble watching because I thought the ESPN coverage was
when has the crew ever been anything but the complete influence on Monday Night Football? I used to love that. I loved listening to Howard Cosell.
Oh, yeah. And Dandy Don.
Yeah. Dandy Don Meredith and Frank.
Gifford.
Gifford. Yeah, I wanted to say Frank McGee. I was thinking about old journalists. Frank Gifford. Frank
McGee at ABC.
Yeah, that's right. He was at ABC.
I pictured his face the minute you said his name. This is tragic. You and I really should check into Happy Acres and just sit around. It's
play dominoes and rack out the old time.
I still think the AFC Championship game is going to be good, even if Mahomes is hobbled. Andy Reid is clever. Patrick Mahomes knows how to play hurt.
Yep.
But
I pick
Joe Burrow is the Bengals know how to play the Chiefs. I just hope that they're not overconfident because they beat them
the Chiefs' offensive line. Chiefs' offensive line is the key. I almost guarantee you
they have to protect Patrick if they can.
If they protect Patrick, if they give him time, he will win every game. He will win the Super Bowl.
But he hasn't
protect him.
He hasn't won the last 3 games, even healthy, against the Bengals.
I know,
and
it's all right.
But I'll give you this. I remember
Andy Reid was not born this morning.
No, he was not.
He's going to have a left hook ready right out of the gate.
Yeah, he'll do something clever. It's how you know that Doug Peterson coached under Andy Reid. They both do clever things.
Yep.
Doug Peterson had the balls to direct snap to a back who threw to his quarterback.
That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Exactly.
In the Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl. Right, exactly right.
Chris and Al caught it. And Chris went, oh, God, this could be the game. Because it was like, what are they? Oh, dear God. And the thing is, nobody picked up the shift.
Yep.
They didn't pick it up because they didn't expect Nick Foles to go out and receive. The Patriots completely missed that one. And for the Pats to miss an offensive shift on that kind of a play.
Yeah.
And then they tried their own version of it, and Brady couldn't catch the ball. Oh, God, that was so funny.
Painful.
Oh, no, it wasn't. I laughed my ass off, and I hate the Philadelphia Eagles Sorry if I hurt anybody's feelings out there in listener land.
Yeah, I don't like the Eagles either, but
fuck the Eagles. They're the only NFL team that has a goddamn jail in their stadium.
It needs a jail in their stadium.
They burn their city down when they win championships. Those people are insane.
If Washington D.C. stadium was on the northeast side, they would need a jail too.
Well, yeah, I mean Anacostia Stadium.
Yeah, I mean on the southeast side is what I mean. Southeast side, yeah.
Either one, son. Either one.
But southeast DC is not a nice place. Not a nice place. That's just been left to rot.
DC isn't a nice place.
No, it's not.
It's
just marbled through with gang neighborhoods. It really is awful.
But there's Adams Morgan. That's magnificent. Or Georgetown, which is so full of itself that it reeks.
Georgetown is self-satirical to me.
Yeah, they really are, including the university.
Yeah, but do you know we have been going on for 2 hours. It's so easy to talk to you guys. I really appreciate you guys.
Harry's been desperate for the last 20 minutes because he's
no. I'm just letting you guys vent.
Talk football.
The football. I was thinking about it. I literally cannot name a single current player in the NFL.
How about an old one? Name one of those.
Well, I can name old ones.
Steve Spurrier.
Oh, come on, Ben. Ray Nitschke.
Yeah.
Oil Can Boyd.
Jesus.
Yeah, he was actually a pitcher. He was a pitcher in the National League, but okay.
Bless him. Bless him.
I guess it's kind of a joke.
Larry Bird. You know, I mean, it's just
yeah. Like Wayne Gretzky, the great one. Roger Bannister, first man to run a 4-minute mile. And that's slow now.
Yeah, no kidding. You've got guys running 26 miles an hour on a football field.
I got to see Bobby Orr, Phil Esposito, Tony Esposito, and Bobby Hull and Dennis Hull all playing hockey on the ice at the same time at a Blackhawks game.
Hate you.
Oh my God.
God, I hate you.
With Keith Magnuson on defense.
God, fuck you.
Bloody Keith Magnuson.
You're killing me. You're killing me. Was Derek Sanderson selling popcorn?
Oh yeah, man, baby. The stars were aplenty, and these were the real greats of hockey. Or coming up to the blue line with the puck, these guys were terrified of him. He was devious. Well, and he was fast too. He's really fast.
Incredibly fast, and an incredibly balletic skater. Is why he was so perfect on defense. That guy would switch from skating forward to skating backward.
Yes, he could also break you with a body check.
Without you seeing his feet move, though.
Yeah, exactly. He would do it gracefully and perfectly, and your broken body would be crumpled against the boards, and he'd be skating away like a fucking ballerina.
Yeah, I mean, he was... He's
really intimidating defenseman. People didn't realize. They thought, well, he's a great scorer. No, he's a great defenseman too.
No, he was amazing, and
he was so fast. That's why he played up on the. That's why he played up on the blue line, because he was that fast.
And he was not a dirty player.
No, not at all. He was not averse to
the fuck out of you into the
firm body check.
Yeah. He also
kept it legal most of the time.
One of the most frightening things I ever saw when I
did he win the Lady Bing? I think he won the Lady Bing, didn't he?
I think so. I will never forget the goal the Bruins scored to win the Stanley Cup when Bobby went airborne. That iconic shot of him just floating above the ice with his hands out in celebration. Yeah. That was we had not lived in New England very long when that happened. And I thought Bobby Orr was the greatest thing since canned beans.
Stan Mikita You remember Stan McKinney? He was in the Blackhawks when I was down there.
I used to listen. Let's see, I was a Bruins fan, and I would listen to Bruins games or Celtics games on the radio at night when I went to bed. My parents.
You remember Don McKenney on the Boston Bruins? He won the Lady Byng in 1960. He was still on the team.
That's before, yeah, but
he would have been on the team because he
we
played
moved up there in '66. We moved up there in '66. So it was mainly
like Bobby Orr ever won the
Phil
thing.
Esposito and Bobby Orr. One of the scariest things I ever
It's hard for a defenseman to win.
Ever saw was Bobby Orr's knee.
Wow.
Yeah,
when he got hurt. Yeah, I remember that.
Well, I mean, just seeing a picture, like an interview, and he rolls his pants up.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh my God, I never, ever want to have knee surgery. Mm-hmm. Well, fortunately, by the time I had to have knee surgery, things had improved significantly in how one did knee surgery. Because, the funny thing is, he still favors himself. If you've seen him do any promotional stuff,
is that right? He still has a limp.
No, I said he still favors himself. He still looks like himself.
He still
same oblong head.
I thought you said favored his left. Never mind. Okay.
No, he's had knee replacements.
Yeah, I guess the new one's okay. Reasons I don't tell the VA about my hip. But anyway, it's been a couple of hours, so we probably should call it. But I did want to thank both of you, Prospero and Harry. Thank you both so much for coming out and joining me for a couple of hours of light conversation. Thank you all, chat, for listening to us. We do this for you, and as well as for ourselves. It's just fun to get together and fun to get together with you guys. Appreciate what you guys have to say, but that's going to do it for tonight. Zoo is closed. Good night, everybody.